All right, today we're diving into the story of PT Delta Dunia Makmur, or BUMA. They are, to put it mildly, an absolute giant in Indonesia's coal industry, a massive mining contractor, and they're operating in a world that's changing faster than ever before. So that leads us to a really big question, and it's what this whole explainer is about. When the world is going green and talking about decarbonization, how does a company whose entire identity is wrapped up in coal manage to survive? Or even, try to grow? Okay, let's get into it. To really get what BUMA is trying to do now, you first have to understand the world they came from. We're talking about a true giant, right at the very heart of Indonesia's enormous coal sector. Just to give you an idea of the scale we're talking about, in 2023, Indonesia's coal production hit a record 775 million tons. It's just a colossal industry, and BUMA is a key player. But what is it they actually do? So what is a coal mining contractor? Well, the model is pretty simple, but it's incredibly powerful. BUMA doesn't actually own the mines themselves. Instead, the big mine owners hire them to do all the heavy lifting, literally. They're the ones clearing the earth, digging out the coal, and hauling it away. They are the operational muscle for the entire industry. Now, check out this breakdown from back in 2015. It shows you just how central they were to a few key players. I mean, over 80% of their money was coming from just 3 clients. Now, on one hand, that shows you they had these really deep, trusted partnerships. But on the other hand, that kind of reliance creates a huge risk if the market suddenly goes south. And that brings us right to the biggest challenge for a company like BUMA, the commodity cycle. It's a roller coaster. They operate in a world of extreme ups and downs. When coal prices are high, life is good. Business is booming. But when those prices crash, the pain is felt immediately, and it is severe. And look, this is nothing new for them. This quote from their 2012 report shows they've been riding these waves for years. Weakening demand, too much supply, it's a story that just keeps repeating itself. Let me show you a really brutal example. Just look at this. In 2014, the company makes a solid $16 million in profit. Awesome. But just 1 year later, in 2015, that flips to an $8 million loss. That's a $24 million swing in the wrong direction. So what on earth happened? Well, a big piece of that loss came from things they couldn't even control. In 2015, they lost $13 million just because of swings in foreign exchange rates. And on top of that, they lost another $20 million because the value of their own equipment and assets was dropping. So the key thing to realize here is that their problems weren't just about operations. They were getting hammered by these huge financial headwinds from every direction. So when you're faced with these brutal market realities, you can't just sit around and wait for prices to magically recover. They had to turn inward and get laser focused on the one thing they could control, their own operations. This line from their 2015 report pretty much became their battle cry. In a tough market they couldn't control, the new goal was to perfect everything they could. That meant boosting productivity and squeezing every last drop of efficiency out of every single thing they did. And I mean, they got super granular with this stuff. Take their YCOPE maintenance procedure. It's this perfectly dialed-in system. It starts with washing and inspecting the equipment, then using sensors for monitoring, ordering parts before they're even needed, planning the repair work, and then finally execution. It's a system designed to sweat every little detail to get the absolute most out of their machines. They also went all in on technology. And we're not just talking about some new software here. This was a complete digital overhaul. Think fleet management systems to map out the most fuel-efficient routes for every truck, or using predictive maintenance sensors to fix an engine before it breaks down in the middle of a job. This was about building a culture of precision, which, as we'll see, became critical for their bigger moves later on. And here's the other crucial piece of their survival strategy. They worked really hard to turn their contracts with major clients into life-of-mine deals. This was a game changer. It gave them a buffer against those crazy short-term market swings and locked in a much more stable, predictable stream of revenue for years. But even that wasn't going to be enough for the future they saw coming. And this brings us to the most recent and honestly the most dramatic chapter in their story. The company had a realization. Just being a really efficient coal contractor probably wasn't a secure long-term plan anymore. They needed to make a fundamental change, a pivot. This slide really lays it all out, right? It's a total before and after.
They went from being a pure-play coal contractor focused only on Indonesia to a diversified company with a global outlook. Their new strategy rests on three pillars: move into mining other minerals, expand internationally to places like Australia, and make ESG, that's environmental, social, and governance, a core part of how they operate.
And this wasn't just some PR move. This statement from their 2023 report is powerful. It signals a massive shift in their whole mindset. The message coming from the very top was crystal clear. The future of their business required a totally new way of thinking, one that takes sustainability just as seriously as it takes profits. So, this brings us full circle. We've seen this incredible journey, right? From being the dominant player in their home market to surviving brutal market cycles, achieving incredible operational efficiency, and now making this ambitious pivot toward a more diversified and sustainable future. At the end of the day, BUMA's story is kind of a miniature version of the challenge facing the entire fossil fuel industry. It's the story of going from being a pure-play giant in one single commodity to becoming a much more complex company trying to find its way in a brand new era. Which leaves us with one final and really critical question. The company itself has said that coal will remain in our DNA. So, with that in mind, can an organization that is so deeply rooted in the coal industry truly transform itself to not just survive, but actually thrive in a low-carbon world? That is the big question. Thanks for tuning in.